What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right. So, Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James is now out indefinitely with an ankle injury. And that doesn't really sound good. Um, I don't know how long he will be out, but just based on things that I've read, about this type of injury, it may be several weeks until we see LeBron James. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe only be a couple of weeks, but it may be several weeks, several until he returns. Um, and this is why I say this. Apparently, a high ankle sprain, which I've never suffered before, not a high ankle, usually takes a lot more time to come back from than a typical lower ankle sprain. Um, just because of where it occurs you know, and this, how much weight you have to put on it. It usually takes a lot longer. Now, I know a thing or two about low ankle sprains. I've suffered so many of them. Once you suffer a couple of them, it seems like when you're playing sports or whatever, you just become susceptible to having them. And the typical ones I would have, especially when I was younger, like in high school, I would be cool in about a week. But there's one particular severe one I suffered that still bothers me to this day. And this was over 20 years ago. I was 19 years old. I wasn't playing sports. I was just walking down the goddamn sidewalk. And I was in one of them fucked up neighborhoods where, you ever seen like one of those neighborhoods where the sidewalk, for some reason, on one block, like the sidewalk is made of several little concrete blocks, and one of them is just way higher than the next one, and you always forget that shit. You always forget that spot where, okay, I gotta look down because this motherfucker about to go down a steep fucking descent. And I didn't pay attention to the shit. It might have been I think I was walking at night. I'll never forget it. I stepped down and I rolled my ankle bad. I rolled it so bad that I thought I might have broke it. My foot literally was like parallel to my fucking ankle, damn near. Um, and at the time, I wasn't in high school, where I could just sit back and just, rest on it for 2 weeks or whatever. I had a job. You know what I'm saying? I had shit I had to do. You know what I'm saying? So I think I sat on it, for like maybe 3 days, and then I just went back to do what the fuck I had to do. But I fucked up my foot that way. I tore ligaments. They never healed properly. And to this day, instead of my foot pointing directly vertical, like out, my foot is at an angle because it never healed properly. So, that's what a standard sprain. Well, it was a severe uh, sprain. But LeBron is suffering from a high ankle sprain. And I've seen numbers that say he could be out 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks. I don't know. Nobody really knows. No one knows except for LeBron James and the team doctors. But I do know this. The Lakers season is in peril. It's in peril. With Anthony Davis already out until April, and LeBron James was the last remaining superstar, and now he's out possibly until sometime in April, the Lakers are definitely in trouble. And I have to say this, man. I don't want this video to be I told you so, you know, pat myself on the back. It's none of that shit. But it's only to vindicate why I've always been so uh, cautious with LeBron, or cautious about him playing so many minutes at his age. Okay, um, I'm a historian. Okay, I see things differently than most people, and by that I mean I have read about and I have observed players. Okay, in my lifetime, I've read about players in the past, and everybody has an expiration date. And even though we've had so many advancements in modern medicine and technology and surgeries and other things that I won't mention, PEDs, let's be honest, a lot of these things are, extending people's careers and extending their prime. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Shit, back in the 1940s, Joe Fawkes, he started breaking down when he was 29 years old, 28, 29 years old. Joe Fawkes started breaking down. Back then, if you were still putting up great numbers when you were 30, 31, that was a remarkable accomplishment. Nowadays, you got guys who are still putting up all-star numbers in their late 30s, if not prime numbers, right? So we've come a long way. But at the end of the day, Father Time is undefeated. And I've noticed with recent players who have played a long time, there's this period where you see a decline and you see an increase in injuries. Okay. Um, for instance, I'll throw out Chris Webber. Chris Webber from 1993. Remember, because back then these guys went to college, so they came in later. So Chris Webber from 1993 to about 2005, maybe. Chris Webber was a beast, but then he suffered that injury. I think it was a knee injury, and the last 3 years of his career, he was never the same player, and he had some injury issues. Kevin Durant, who came in the NBA when he was 18 years old in 1995, for about 14 years straight, Kevin Garnett, not Kevin Durant. Kevin Garnett was a beast from 1995 to 2009. Then he suffers that injury, which I think it was a non-contact injury, which is often a sign of age and wear and tear. And after that, even though Kevin Durant would play on all the way through 2016, he was never the same player. And of course, he started subsequently toward the end suffering a few more injuries. But that's the thing. Um, Father Time touches you in some way, shape, or form. Either it's gradually diminished skills and abilities, or it's injuries. With Michael Jordan, he had the perfect situation. He rolled off into the sunset with a sixth NBA title. But if you remember that 98 season like I do, and I watched damn near every game of the Chicago Bulls during that 98 season, there were signs that Jordan was losing his athleticism. He didn't jump as high anymore. You know what I'm saying? Obviously. He got beat a little bit more defensively. He was devolving into becoming a shot jacker. This is a guy that was always known for his efficiency as an outside shooting guard, 50% or better, Now he was shooting in the mid 40s, 44%, 45% from the floor. Jordan, who was known for his balletic movements, was slipping. Remember all the times during that year where he was trying to, size somebody up and, he would slip or, fall, lose his balance. A lot of that was because he was losing his swiftness. You know what I'm saying? And then when he came back with the Wizards, just as he was starting to get his game going, he started suffering all these injuries. Remember against Ron Artest, he broke Jordan's ribs, which he never really recovered from. He had the knee injury, the fluid in the knee that he kept having to get drained after games. I mean, it was just bad. I mean, bad back. I mean, he suffered from a lot of injuries, which would have hospitalized some people. Larry Bird, one of the most tragic situations. By 1987, 86, 87, a lot of people were saying that Larry Bird was the greatest player of all time. 2 years later, Larry Bird was in crutches from having surgery, uh, removing bone spurs, real bone spurs, not made up shit like Trump. And in the last couple of years of his life, this is a guy that had to wear a back brace every game, had to have his spine manually manipulated by an expert so that his spine would be stable enough so he can play a basketball game. And this is a guy that was in constant severe pain and had to take steroids for inflammation for his back. That's why if you look at Bird, the last couple years of his career, he kind of looked a little bloated. You know what I'm saying? Like he looked a little bloated in the face because he was taking a steroid. Um, Not for performance enhancements, but you know, to alleviate pain. And then you look at Kobe. Kobe, I mean, look, man, we've seen it before. I warned about this with Kobe years ago. I said, back then people thought I was hating. I said Kobe is in year 16, and Steve Nash isn't working out. Dwight Howard, isn't really working out there. Their offense isn't working. I think this is when Mike D'Antoni was there, and Kobe put that team on his back. But I had noticed back then, even though Kobe was having a sensational season, I think like 27 points, almost 28, maybe like 6 rebounds, 5 or 6 assists or whatever. I was noticing a little slippage in his athleticism, but he still was tremendous. But I knew that this was a Kobe that was 30. How old was he then? 35, 35, I think. It's not the Kobe that was 24, 25, 26, 27. Now he's trying to carry a franchise as if he's a younger player when he was now older than Shaq ever was with the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? This is a guy that was part of a championship team. Now you're asking him to carry a franchise. And it all went awry in that game against Golden State when he tore his Achilles because he was trying to do everything, trying to do too much. So that's why I've said that for the betterment of the team, LeBron needs to do less. He needs to play less minutes. Okay, he needs to play less. He needs to be more of a Magic Johnson. Let other guys do all the heavy lifting because you're in your 18th season. I understand the mentality of I'm going out on my shield, fuck this, blah 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 blah. You know what, man? I want all the smoke. I get all of that shit. I get that person. I get that, but you have to be smarter than that. Now we're in a situation where you already have a guy who's always injured in Anthony Davis, so you can't really depend on him. Now Anthony Davis come back after being out all this time in the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, now you got to worry about him being gun shy and being thinking about his injury. Like Karl Malone. Karl Malone never suffered a significant injury until his last year with the Lakers. And he said that that injury did affect him because he had never thought about, he never really been seriously injured before. Now he said when he thought about it, he thought about his leg when he was making moves. He was thinking about the injury and it affected his game. And it affected how effective he was with the Lakers ultimately. So you already got a guy that's already injured all the time. Now LeBron has suffered the second significant injury of his career. And when LeBron came back the first time from the groin injury, he was not the same player that he was that Christmas Day game against the Warriors when he suffered that injury. So I'm concerned. I am very concerned about not only the Lakers. Honestly, fuck this season. Fuck this season. I'm concerned about LeBron and the Lakers after this season because injuries are often the first sign or one of the key signs that a player is hitting that wall. And you don't want to get to a situation like a Jerry Rice um, or DeMarcus Cousins or a Klay Thompson where you're starting to suffer a lot of injuries. Grant Hill, Penny Hardaway. This is a guy that's never, LeBron's never had to deal with that type of situation where he's dealt with a lot of injuries. You know what I'm saying? He's always been a guy that's been very, very healthy. But it's a rarity. It's a rarity to find a player who's going through their entire career with really no significant injuries. You know, think about it. Maybe Dolph Shays, Randy Smith, AC Green, Elvin Hayes, you know, even other guys who were Iron Men eventually had some injury issues like Derek Fisher. So it's very rare for that type of player to exist. John Havlicek to a great extent too. But tell me what you guys think, man. You know, do you think that LeBron should, when he comes back, play less minutes? Do you think that he should finally start ceding to other players um, and sacrifice his numbers for the betterment of the team, or do you think that he should just continue to play the way he plays? You know what I'm saying? Which I think personally is a mistake. As he gets older, it's a mistake. It's a mistake to keep trying to average 27, 7, and 7 when it's getting harder for you. To think about this. LeBron James, and some of you, a lot of you are old enough to remember him during his first stint with Cleveland. LeBron James on a team that was arguably less talented around him than the team that he has now. Okay, definitely with Anthony Davis in the equation. That Cavaliers team that was less talented, with the best player that he played with was Mo Williams, who was only I think an All-Star one year because he was an alternate. It's Jules Zagauskas, I guess, you know. But other than that, Laker team that now was better, right? I saw LeBron James go through stretches where he could average 40, 10, and 10 in a 5, 6 game span. Playoff series, we averaged 38, 8, and 8. Years where he would average 30, 7 and 7, you know, easy. LeBron is now trying to mimic these numbers in an era where it's easier to score, but it's not easier for him to get these numbers. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that, you know, I don't want to sound too critical of him, man. I just think that he should be more focused on other things at this point. I think LeBron should be focused more on championships and fuck MVPs. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Fuck an MVP award. Okay, you've won 4 of them. Okay, if you won a 5th one, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I would rather win a championship than an MVP award. Karl Malone has 2 league MVP awards, but I guarantee you he would trade in both of those motherfuckers for a championship. Charles Barkley has an MVP award. I bet you he would trade that motherfucker in for at least one championship. Steve Nash has 2 MVP awards. I guarantee you, if he could do it over again, he would trade in both of those for a championship. Even Allen Iverson, who won an MVP in 2001, I know that meant a lot to him, but I guarantee you that he would trade that in for a title. Right now, LeBron should just be playing for championships. There are a lot of players that should have had more league MVPs than they did, but ultimately, at this stage of his career, LeBron should just be concerned about getting those rings. But that's all I got to say. Tell me what you guys think.